I want to thank you all for coming today. First, for a little bit of housekeeping, we ask that you all stay muted and off camera. Please put your questions in the Q&A box below, and this event will be recorded. Next slide, please. So we'll be spending about 45 minutes to an hour together today. This is going to be a relatively short webinar. First, we'll go over the UFA overview and timeline of the organization and the certification itself. We'll discuss what is the UCP, or the Upcycled Certification Program, what you can expect from the process. We'll also discuss eligibility, and we'll go over a sort of FAQ Q&A combo session. And then we'll have closing remarks. Next slide. Okay, so who is the UFA? Founded in October of 2019, we are a small nonprofit trade association with the focus and mission of reducing food waste by growing the upcycled food economy. It was created by upcycled food companies themselves who recognize the power of collaboration in growing a successful food category and environmental movement. Next slide, please. Here at the UFA, we also envision a food system built by conscious consumers and innovative businesses where all food reaches its highest and best use. So a little bit about the org's timeline. Again, in October of 2019, we were founded. By May of 2020, we had our first official definition of what upcycled food is. Then this year, in January of 2021, we ratified the first iteration of the Upcycled Certification Standard. In February of 2021, we launched the beta program. The purpose of the beta program was to test out the new standard and work through the kinks of the program prior to launch. And in June of 2021, we officially launched the Upcycled Certification Program. Next slide, please. The upcycled food trend is growing. Over the course of a year, upcycled foods have been noted on many of the top 10 trends lists, including not only by Whole Foods, but by Forbes and the Food Industry Executive also. Upcycled foods give consumers the ability to participate in climate change solutions every time they shop. It is also reported that 97% of consumers think positively about retailers that carry upcycled products. And it's also been reported that 51% of consumers had an increased intent to buy a product with the Upcycled Certified logo. Next slide, please. This year, we also launched a product finder for certified products and ingredients. This serves as a discovery platform for not only consumers, but brands looking to incorporate upcycled ingredients into their final products. Next slide, please. So, what is the Upcycled Certification Program? Next slide. The Upcycled Certification Program is the world's first third-party certification program for upcycled food ingredients and products. To date, I'm happy to announce that we have 84 PUIs and 31 UIs certified thus far in the program. This also represents about 70,000 tons of diverted food waste. To put it in a different context, that is the emissions from roughly 45,000 cars on the road right now. So amazing stats for a program that has only been open little less than 6 months. Next slide, please. So there are 2 pathways to becoming certified under the certification program, through tons diverted and percent inclusion. The minimum amount for tons diverted is based on your corresponding sales tier. This chart can be found on page 19 in the standard. So for example, a tier 1 company that makes about $2 million in annual gross product sales will need to divert around 5 tons per year. Percent inclusion, you must meet or exceed minimum inclusion amount thresholds set forth within the standard. And I'll get into those next. Next slide. So there are 3 designations within the standard. The first one is upcycled ingredient, or UI, and you must meet or exceed 95% upcycled uniform diverted inputs by weight, and it can only be sold B2B. A uniform diverted input means that it has to be in the same state. So for example, it would have to be all dehydrated carrot peels. It couldn't be a mixture of carrot peels, carrot puree, and carrot pulp. Product containing upcycled ingredients, or PUI, must meet or exceed 10% upcycled ingredients by weight or meet the threshold for tons diverted. This can be sold B2B or B2C. Less than PUI is the third designation within the standard. These products do not meet the 10% threshold or the tonnage diverted threshold, but they meet all other requirements outlined within the standard and can be sold B2B or B2C. These, however, have a number of marketing restrictions to mitigate the perceived greenwashing. Less than PUIs were added to the standard to make sure the standard was all inclusive and we weren't excluding any large populations or brands that were doing the good work of upcycling. Next slide. Okay, so what can you expect from the certification process? Next slide. So I want to take a second to walk you through the customer journey of being part of the certification program. So first, you will go to our website and complete the applicant interest form. Once we receive your application, depending on your status that you select on the form, we will then connect you with the CB, Where Food Comes From, our third-party certifier for our program. After that, you will then receive from the CB your intake paperwork. This will include a questionnaire, a cost estimate, and an operator's agreement. Once those things are completed, you will then receive communications from the UFA regarding your licensing agreement. The licensing agreement governs your use of the certification mark on pack and in marketing. At the very same time you are working with us on the licensing agreement process, you are still continuing the certification verification process with Where Food Comes From. Once you are certified and you have received your certificate and written approval from us, the UFA, you are now allowed to use the mark in the public space. You will also receive your executed licensing agreement and your marketing toolkit from us, the UFA. In the post-certification process, we will work with you to get listed on the finder that we showed you in the previous slide and to set up a one-on-one marketing call to help you talk about your new certification and your upcycling efforts. We're currently working on new toolkits and assets to be able to help you better tell your story. Next slide. So before you apply, it's super important that you thoroughly read through the standard. It outlines the eligibility, the requirements of the program. It discusses our use of data And it also mentions other things that you need to be aware of, such as GHG source identification and the FORP. In terms of data, UFA will receive de-identified data from where food comes from, unless you opt in for us to see company-specific data. This aggregate data will be used to iterate the standard and for marketing purposes. So think year-end reports and infographics. The UFA will have access to your company data in the event that the CB needs to be audited, and the companies will be chosen at random. We are not reinventing the wheel here. This is in line with other certification programs. Lastly, you will also need to make sure that you have your process flows completed. An example of this is on page 15 in the standard. You will also need to have your GHG sources identified. And I want to stress, just identified. We are not asking for measurements at this time. And you will also need to make sure that you have your food waste assessment and reduction plan, or FORP, completed. Please note that this is a plan and does not have to be implemented at this junction in order to be certified. The food waste assessment reduction plan requirement has been a point of confusion for some participants. We have worked to set out more clear guidelines within this section, and as with other portions of the paperwork, please do not hesitate to connect with your contact from where food comes from if you have questions about how to complete this requirement. We're working on getting examples to help mitigate some of the confusion. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do you get started? Super simple and easy. As mentioned before, you can head on over to our website and complete the applicant interest form. And while you're there, please select your status. If you are not ready to apply, but have questions and simply want to talk to someone, please select that option before you submit. If you are ready to apply and start the process and do not have any questions and understand what to expect, please select ready to start and I don't have any questions. We also ask that once you do submit, please check your spam folders, as we're relatively quick in replying to the applicants that come in. So I know sometimes it will end up going to your spam folder and you may not see our response back to you. Next slide. So this is a quick list of records to keep in mind that you should start gathering as you prepare for your certification. This is not a full list. A more comprehensive list will be provided to you during the certification process. And you can also, when you're connected with the CB, reach out and ensure that you have the correct paperwork before you begin. Next slide. Okay, so I want to take a second to walk you all through the licensing agreement process. Although all of your paperwork will go to where food comes from, other than the applicant interest form and this, please send all paperwork to the CB. This is the only thing that you will work with me on in terms of paperwork. So in order to receive a copy of the certification mark files, you must complete the following. Return the signed licensing agreement to me or to the certification team. Submit the licensing agreement fee to the UFA. All other fees associated with the certification program go directly to where food comes from. Once those two items are completed together, the brand guideline and certification mark will be sent to you. A copy of your executed licensing agreement will be sent once you are certified. The licensing agreement, again, governs your use of the certification mark, and the brand guideline that you will receive will be your toolkit or your guide on how you can use the mark on pack, and any romance language you may be able to use. And I say may be able to use because it depends on your designation. If you are a less than, you have less opportunities to use marketing tools as per the standard, again, to mitigate any perceived greenwashing with the less than mark. Next slide, please. Okay, so who's eligible for the certification program? So the program eligibility requirements are as follows. You must have a product for sale in the US, be diverting upcycled material from a waste stream, have a verifiable supply chain, and be an operator that grows, produces, manufactures, processes, and trades in food and beverage, dietary supplements, companion pet food, cosmetics, personal care products, and household items. Under the standard, a waste destination is considered landfill, animal feed, composting, and incineration, just to name a few. These destinations were retrieved from the Food Waste and Loss Protocol. A link to that document can be found within the standard. Next slide. Things that are not eligible for certification are inputs derived from wood and forestry products, cigarettes, tobacco, vaping, or nicotine products, controlled substances according to US law, and goods for sale within countries for which the certification trademark has not yet been registered. Next slide. Okay, so like I mentioned at the top of this webinar, this is going to be super short and quick. We're going to move into the questions portion of this. First, I will do a quick frequently asked questions part, and then we'll get to your questions. Next slide. So I usually get this question of how much, what's the cost of the program? So a fee schedule can be found on our website, but the cost of the program is dependent upon your application and number of products and ingredients you are submitting for review. The CB, Where Food Comes From, has final say on all costs related to the program because they are the ones who review your paperwork. How long does this take? Well, it depends. I usually tell people to plan for 6 months, but we've had people finish the program in as little as 4 weeks. So it can vary. If you do have a deadline you're trying to meet, just let us know and we will do our best to help you meet that deadline. I'm using a certified ingredient. My product is automatically certified, right? No. The ingredient and product certifications are two separate things. However, one of the benefits of using a certified ingredient is that your product certification will be slightly easier to get because the paper chase you would have to do for your inputs is already completed. I am a co-manufacturer. Can I apply on behalf of my client? Yes, actually you can. However, in terms of the licensing agreement, it is the brand owner that will be responsible for signing the licensing agreement. My facility isn't certified. Do I qualify? So this certification is for products and ingredients only. It is not for facilities, companies, or people. I am based outside of the US. Can I certify my product? Yes, as long as your product or ingredient is for sale in the US marketplace, you can submit your item for review. It just has to be for sale here. You do not have to be based here in the US. How can I become a certified UFA member? Certification and membership are two separate programs. You can become a member without being certified, and you can become certified without becoming a member, even though we encourage you to do both. And speaking of membership, next slide. Our membership network is a growing community of 185 plus upcycled food companies and leaders across 20 countries, representing the entire supply chain. There are 3 membership types. And one of the perks of becoming a member is that you do get a discount on the certification program. You have to be a member. You can't be of one of the other membership types. It has to be a full member, but you do get a discount on the certification. Now, you have to become a member prior to certifying because that's when we'll get your cost estimate. So part of your certification cost is your membership level is viewed, so you know how much to charge you. And if you would like more information regarding membership, please reach out to the membership team at membership@upcycledfood.org. Again, I'll repeat that, and we'll also put it in the chat. It's membership@upcycledfood.org. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to move into the question and answer session. If you have a question about your formulation in terms of percent inclusions and things like that, I ask that you please connect with us offline so we can better assist you in a different format. So let's see, I'm going to take a second to look in the chat to see what questions have been coming up as I've been speaking. Okay, does anyone have any questions that they would like me to answer today? We have a few more minutes left, so I want to make sure that we can help you all before you start the certification process. Okay, are we sure we don't have any questions? Well, all right, next slide, please. Okay, once you're ready to start, please fill out the applicant interest form. And if you have any more questions, please reach out to the certification team at certification@upcycledfood.org. We'll put it in the chat and I'll say it again, certification@upcycledfood.org. The certification team is made up of myself, Alicia Hartley, and Colin Gardner. So we'll be there to assist you every step of the way along with where food comes from. Thank you, and we will send this recording and the slide deck out post the webinar today. All right, everyone, I will let you reclaim the rest of this time and have a good afternoon.